Hi, this is David from English Changes Lives. Today we're looking at research reports. So we're going to look at what is a research report, then we'll have a quick look at why study a research report, and then for today we're just going to look at what actually goes inside a research report. So there are basically 4 parts, so that's what we'll be looking at in this video, and then in the next video we will go into more detail about the different stages for a research report. Okay, so what is a research report? So basically you do some research and you report on it. So that means there's a couple of stages for the research. First, you need to do some background reading to know what previous research there is already. Then you need to find out basically what is missing from that previous research, and then you need to do your own research. So it could be doing a survey, for example, and then you need to carry out your research so that you can share your new knowledge with other people, and that your research report adds to the knowledge on your topic already. Okay, so why study a research report? Firstly, it promotes critical thinking. Critical thinking is a really important skill, which at the moment is one advantage humans have over computers. So whenever you're told something, you should question it. Don't just believe everything that you're told. So you need to question it, you need to probe and think, does this make sense? How do I know this is true? So you need to really challenge ideas before you decide to accept them or reject them. And then it's also useful to start conducting your own research so that this can be part of an ongoing process. You can become part of a bigger academic community, sharing knowledge. Here it's got academic community, but it can be a business community as well in the future when you're working, or if you're working already. So for the first part, you need to conduct the research. So you need to carry out the research. So you need to come up with some kind of research question. So for example, what makes people happy? Then you need to read to get background information. So you can read from a variety of sources for background information. It could be from newspapers, it could be from magazines. Some of the information you want should be more credible, so more believable. So perhaps things like from academic journals. There may be previous research reports that you can find online, or if you're lucky to have access to research reports in a university library, for instance, you could get it there. So you need to form your question. So for example, what makes people happy? You need to read background information. Then you need to plan the research. So for example, how am I going to find out the answer to my question? There's a couple of ways we can do the actual research, and we'll look at those in another video. And then you need to actually conduct the research itself. So that is for conducting the research. The other part is you need to write up about your research. So there are 4 main parts of the research report. So this is a typical example. There are other research reports out there. So there are some research reports which are over 200 pages long, which will have more than these, but these are the basic stages. So you need an introduction, a methodology, the results, a discussion. They are the 4 main parts. And then at the end of a research report, you must have references and an appendix. So we'll talk about what goes in these different parts a bit later on. So in the introduction, not surprisingly, you need to introduce the topic of study. So for example, happiness. You need to get some relevant findings from the previous research on the topic. So this is where you need to look at both primary sources and secondary sources. So previous research, maybe magazine articles with research from journals, or it could be from secondary sources like newspapers. At the end of the introduction, you need to describe the purpose of the study. So later on in another video, we will will go into more detail about this. So the aim for this video is just to give you a very brief overview. Okay, the methodology is basically what was done. So you give information about the sample group and you say how the research was carried out. So was it a survey? Did you do an interview with an expert? So there are a few options, but again, we'll go over this in more detail in another video. And then after you've carried out your research, you need to present the results. So you need to present them in some kind of graphs, and then you need to analyze the information. So try and pick out the important features. You do not need to say everything in the graphs for your results. It's just the most important features that you need to select and write about those. After the results section comes the discussion. So this, you will need to remind the reader of the aim of your study from the introduction, because the reader will tend to forget. Then you need to summarize your results. So that should be in the first paragraph. Then in the other paragraphs, you need to compare the results from your study to the previous research. Say if they are similar, if they are different, if they're exactly the same, if they're very different, and then speculate and give possible reasons why the results are similar, why the results are different. Then in the last paragraph, you need to evaluate the weaknesses in the study. So every study has some problems. It would be crazy to say any study is perfect. There are always problems. Okay, it is actually a good thing, and it shows your awareness if you are able to correctly identify appropriate weaknesses in your study. So again, we'll study this in more detail later. And then the last thing to think about in the discussion is to try and identify areas for future research. So this could be research you intend to do yourself in the future, or it could be research that you think would be interesting, but for the time being you're not going to do it, and perhaps somebody else will. Maybe somebody with more money or more time than you. Okay, so that is just a really quick overview of what goes in a research report. In the next couple of videos, we will break it down into each section, and we'll look at some of the skills you need to do for the research report. Okay, so if you've got questions, or if you've got comments or things you're unsure about, please feel free to just write them in the comments below. And then we will add more videos on this topic in the future. Okay, have a great day.